Hello, I'm Sister Unity. It's Sunday and time for me, as a nun, to educate you on the Bible, the book that all nuns know things about. Today, I would like to read to you from Genesis chapter 38, the story of Judah and his sons and Onan, and the woman Tamar. There's a lot in here. It's only one chapter, but it's rich. So, shall we begin? Joseph's family sins with the Canaanites. It's funny because Joseph isn't even in the chapter, really. And it came about at that time that Judah departed from his brothers and visited a certain Adullamite, whose name was Hirah. And Judah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite, whose name was Shua, which if you were a homosexual in the 80s, you may remember the term Shua was a term for something that was elegant and chic, but just a little extra. It was Shua. So this woman was clearly wearing like ostentatious amounts of Chanel. And he took her and went into her. Now, there's no mention of a marriage, okay, or dowry or any of the sort of customary forms of legally or socially acceptably conjoining with a woman. It just says he took her and went into her. Now, as you'll see as we read on, he went into her is going to turn out to mean it's a euphemism for scrogging. He scrogged her. He scrumped her. He shagged her. They fornicated. There was fornicatory relations. They had sexual intercourse. They played hide the salami, to be working class about it. He took her and went into her. Did he take her to In-N-Out Burger? Yes, that was an innuendo, but this whole thing really is talking about copulation. Where did he take her? How did he take her? Did he tie a rope around her? Like what was the taking of a woman in that day and age? It is unknown to us. So she conceived and bore a son. So there you can see he went into her means like he didn't, it's not like Tom Sawyer and Becky Thatcher like exploring a cave. The seed wand went into her. So she conceived and bore a son and named him because of course, as we learned, I think elsewhere in the Bible, to err is human. Then she conceived again and bore him a son named Onan. So she's magically conceiving. It doesn't say whether he went into her or not. Is it a traffic accident? Did he drive his car and he went into her? Like maybe T-boned her? It's unknown to us. And she bore still another son and named him Shelah. And you'll see later on Shelah will have children and grandchildren, and they'll all be named after him. One of the line will be called Shalak, who of course invented furniture glaze. And it was at Chezib that she bore him. I guess Chezib is a Shelah-bearing location. Now Judah took a wife for his firstborn, and her name was Tamar. So right there we can see that it is the father who provides the wife to his son. So those of you, my Christian brothers and sisters, who are marrying for love, who are choosing your own mates, you have erred. I don't mean that you've first son of Judah, I mean you've made a mistake. Your father is supposed to pick your wife for you. So I'm going to need you to give up who you are married to currently. It is, you're apparently living outside the prescriptions of the Holy Bible. So right here's the part where the father finds the wife Tamar. And I'm going to need you to ask your dad to get you a wife. So we're going to need to change that. But Judah's firstborn, was evil in the sight of the Lord. So the Lord took his life. Where did he take it? I guess it means he killed him, because she's in the next one you can see she's a widow. Is that the same, took his life? Is that the same way that Judah took Shua? And he took her and went into her? So the Lord took his life. So is the Lord going to have relations with Er's life? It's unknown to us. The ways of the Lord in heaven are unknown once he takes people to heaven. Although you can see there that Zeus or Jupiter is in fact the Christian god, Yahweh. Because Zeus was always taking people and copulating with them. And here is the Lord taking Er's life. So you can clearly see the parallel. I guess is going to be Yahweh's cupbearer in heaven, like Ganymede. So now, then Judah said to Onan, "Go in to your brother's wife, and perform your duty as a brother-in-law to her, and raise up offspring for your brother." Now, when he says go in, he's not saying like her tent's over there, go in there. He's saying there's big Onan, the tall guy who you can look in the eyes, and then there's little Onan who, is in your loinclothy undergarment thing, little Onan. And so it's little Onan he's talking to has to go into her, just like Judah went into Shua. That doesn't mean he went shopping at Chanel. So the father apparently is in charge of screwing. Okay, so anyone who's having sex without your father telling you who to have sex with, you're doing it wrong. It's right here. Genesis 38:8. Genesis 38:9. And Onan knew that the offspring would not be his, so it came about that when he went in to his brother's wife, he wasted his seed on the ground, in order not to give offspring to his brother. So first of all, if your brother's wife is a widow, if your brother dies, you're supposed to scrog your brother's wife so that he will have had children, which is, as anyone who works for Monsanto knows, they're not his children, they're your children, but I guess in ancient Jewish law, they're his children because the wife bore them. That gives power of the wife to identify the children as her ex-husbands, I guess. So there is some agency there, although I don't know, it's the father's the one arranging the screwing. The wife just has to, the wife is kind of like a hotel. Like people are going into her, checking in, storing their luggage apparently for 9 months, checking out after 9 months, or, it's weird because one client goes in and then a different client comes out after 9 months, but whatever. I hope they get liberal use of the pool. Now Onan spills his seed on the ground, okay, and as you'll see in Genesis 38:10, that's not so good. But what he did was displeasing in the sight of the Lord, so he took his life also, and the he is capitalized, so the Lord took Onan's life. So the Lord has got, and Onan must have been some pretty cute guys, because the Lord's got them as these kind of Ganymede cupbearer, boy toys up in heaven. So if you're evil, you're going to end up as God's homosexual butt boy. That's what happens to evil people, which is redemptive because you are, at the right hand of God, offering him your cup, as it were. If you've read the Da Vinci Code, you know what a cup means. It's the place where you put a sword, the sword and the grail, the sword and the cup, and male and female, the lingam and the yoni. And so I guess men, it's recognized here. Homosexuality is recognized right here because Onan and are the cupbearers of the Lord, which means that they're men, but without sword. They're not sword bearers for the Lord, which he stores in a vineyard with the grapes of wrath. They're cupbearers like Zeus, Ganymede is Zeus's cupbearer, Zeus is Yahweh. And so in a celestial way, you are redeemed by being a homosexual servant of the Lord. Homosexuality is redemptive. So not only does it exist, not only is it suggested in the Bible, it is redemptive. That makes it very holy. No pun intended. But masturbating, okay, either coming and pulling out, which the Catholic Church has advised for years, instead of using condoms, okay, you're supposed to pull out. No, apparently not. Apparently you get turned into a sacred homosexual if you do that. I guess homosexuality is kind of a way that you get refurbished. So homosexuals are really like, cheaper Macintosh computers in a sense, sacredly. And masturbation, as we all know, Onan, has been known for centuries to be really a story about how you're not supposed to masturbate. So not only are you supposed to procreate and create life, and therefore abortion is a no-no, but masturbation, wasting your seed on the ground, is a no-no. So I'm going to need all of the Christian right who are so assiduously and prominently hardworking at abolishing abortion to get on anti-masturbation laws. I believe there's a Democratic lawmaker, a Democratic lawmaker in Texas, good Christian woman she must be, because she's already proposed a law to criminalize masturbation. I mean, like right here, you can see, like, it's supposed to be for the woman. The woman's supposed to be getting the sperm, so if men are masturbating, they're going against the Bible's prescription that women are the sperm receptacles, to be Christian about it. Then Judah, Genesis 38:11, then Judah said to his daughter-in-law Tamar, remain a widow in your father's house until my son Shelah, the great-great-great-grandfather of Shelach, grows up. For he thought, I'm afraid that he too may die like his brothers. So Tamar went and lived in her father's house. So it's going to be up to Shelah, the third brother, to scrog Tamar. But she's got to wait till he grows up, because he's like, there's no grass on the playing field. And if there's no grass on the playing field, the footballs aren't inflated. Now listen to this part, okay? I'm going to read for a while here. Okay, there's a lot here. And after considerable time, Shua's daughter, the wife of Judah, died. And when the time of mourning was ended, Judah went up to his sheep shearers in Timnah, and he and his friend Hirah the Adulamite. And it was told to Tamar, behold, your father-in-law is going up to Timnah to shear his sheep. So he's out of the house. So she removed her widow's garments, okay, and she covered herself with a veil. Okay, remember Salome, who wore veils? So clearly a veil is like a harlot thing. In fact, if you go on Facebook and look up Sister Harlot Davidson, she wears a red veil, a white or a red veil, and she's a harlot. So clearly a veil is what a prostitute wears. So she's dressing like a prostitute here, and wrapped herself in, and sat in the gateway of Eniam, which is on the road to Timnah. For Timnah is, by the way, where Mr. Tumnus lives. That's why he got his name Tumnus, because Tumnus is a man who lives of Timnah. C.S. Lewis and the Chronicles of Narnia are all about Christian allegory. Mr. Tumnus is clearly the Elamite who lives in Timnah. For she saw that Shelah had grown up, and she had not been given to him as a wife. So she's like, okay, Judah doesn't have a wife. He's out of the house for the day. And he hasn't made his third son scrog me to make sons for my dead husband So I'm going to dress like a harlot. Go up to this place on the road to where Judah is going. Okay, sort of like Wile E. Coyote heading the Roadrunner off at the pass. Except she's the Roadrunner because she's the clever one and he's Wile E. Coyote. When Judah saw her, he thought she was a harlot, for she had covered her face. So she covered her face, and that describes her as a harlot. So here we see that Saudi Arabia and Iran and Pakistan, all these countries where the mullahs are having women in burqas covering their faces, mullahs are equivalent to pimps because the women are wearing veils, okay? And the veil is a signatory of a prostitute. So all of these very, strict religious societies, the religion seems to be based on harlotry of the women. So he thinks that she's a harlot, okay. And so he turned aside to her by the road, and he said, "Here now, let me come in to you." It's like, "Oh, bully for you, prostitute. Let me scrog you with my facile penis, which I have right here." It's all like very workaday. It's like no big deal to scrog a harlot by the side of the road, apparently. So this is biblical. So I'm going to need all of the Christian men whose wives have died, who are otherwise without wives, to come into a harlot. You can hit up Sister Harlot Davidson on Facebook if you want to come into her. I have no idea what her ratio of topping and bottoming is, but you can try. But apparently, scrogging prostitutes is A-okay in the Bible. No wonder Jesus talked to them. Right, and so she's like, "Okay, what will you give me that you may come into me?" Okay, so she's haggling. He says, "Therefore, I will send to you a kid from the flock." She says, "Moreover, will you give it a pledge until you send it?" Because she's like, you say you're going to give me a little baby goat now, but what if you stiff me after you stiff me? It was a pun. And he said, "What pledge shall I give you?" And she said, "Your seal, and your cord, and your staff that is in your hand." So he gave them to her, and he went into her. He scrogged her, boned her, and she conceived by him. Oh, so she's pregnant by the father of her husband, who's dead. Then she arose and departed, and removed her veil, and put on her widow's garments. And when Judah sent the kid by his friend, the Adullamite, to receive the pledge from the woman's hand, he did not find her. Yeah, because she's your daughter-in-law, and she lives in your house. She's not, looks like the harlot by the road anymore. And then he asked the men of the place, saying, "Where is the temple prostitute who is by the road at Enaim?" But they said, "There has been no temple prostitute here." Okay, it's the Bible. Can you see that first top line right there? Temple prostitute. Temple prostitute. Temple prostitute. There were prostitutes associated with the religious organization of the temples. Prostitution is not only okay to do, it's sanctioned, employed by, and ensconced in the temple. I guess being a practical church, they know that men have needs, and there's a good way to get your rocks off when you don't want to, I don't know, have too many children. I don't know what the scriptures are. It's not here, but it's very clear that prostitution is a part of the temple of the religious organization. So I'm going to need all the Christians to get that F off the back of prostitutes and sex workers. In fact, you can follow the role model of your congressman who already support this institution of sex work, even though they're not these days associated with, not publicly advertised as associating with temples and churches. But as we all know. So he returned to Judah and said, "I did not find her, and furthermore the men of the place said, there has been no temple prostitute here." And they're all like, her, the temple prostitute, the one we all use, employ. Then Judah said, "Let her keep them then, lest we become a laughing stock. After all, I sent this kid, but you did not find her." So he takes the goat home. Now it is about 3 months later that Judah was informed, "Your daughter-in-law Tamar has played the harlot, and behold, she is also with child by harlotry. Then Judah said, "Bring her out and let her be burned." So he's like, she's a fucking horse, fucking adultery, okay? Because he thinks that this daughter-in-law is not a temple prostitute, which is apparently okay. She's just, screwing on the side or making money on this. Doesn't say whether they think that she's making money. It's sort of conflating slut and whore. As we all know, a slut doesn't get paid, a whore does get paid, or as we like to call them, a sex worker and, me. But he thinks that she's, either way, whatever she is, she's, done it improperly, and so she's naughty, naughty, naughty. Which is really weird, because it's okay for the temple prostitute to be employed, but, your daughter has sex Oh no, ooh. Like what's the delineation? Do you like are the temple prostitutes, go to a temple prostitute college where they are trained in the specific ways of sex work so that they're better at it or something? And if your daughter does it, there's some kind of like danger and that's why it's prescribed? I don't know. It doesn't say. You can blame the Council of Nicaea for chopping all the books out of it that probably would have told us. Okay, so he's going to burn her. It was while she was being brought out that she sent to her father-in-law, saying, I am with child by the man to whom these things belong. And she said, Please examine and see whose signet ring and cords and staff are these. Bitch got receipts. You go, Tamar. Tamar with the good hair got receipts, girl. And Judah recognized them. Yes, he did. He had been to the grocery store and seen the receipts and recognized the turkey was his to purchase and said, She is more righteous than I, inasmuch as I did not give her to my son Shelah, and he did not have relations with her again. So he's like, oh, I owed her kids because my son was her husband. She's supposed to have kids. And she was like, she went and got the sperm. She got the family genetic material to make the kids. Good for her. Because I dropped the ball. I dropped both balls. Well, I dropped the ball and then I dropped the ball. So she got me to drop the balls because I dropped the ball. So he's like, we're cool. And it came about at the time that she was giving birth that, behold, there were twins in her womb. And lo, did they grow up to be on Home and Garden television with a flipping house show. No, I'm sorry, wrong twins. Moreover, it took place that while she was giving birth, one put out a hand. Okay, so she's pregnant, she's giving birth, and one of the twins goes boop and puts out a hand. He's like, somebody give me, like, slap me a cheeseburger. And when he put the hand out, the midwife took and tied a scarlet thread on his hand, saying this one came out first. But it came about, as he drew back his hand, that, behold, his brother came out. So one sticks the hand out, gets a little red thread tied around it, which is actually, you do that for Hindu ceremonies. It means you're sort of part of the ritual, sort of sacred thread. That's interesting. And then he pulls it back, and his brother, without the thread, pops out first instead. They thought the thread boy was going to be first, but he wasn't. The brother was first. So the brother comes out, no thread, right? And the nurse says, what a breach you have made for yourself. So he was named Perez. So Perez was the first into the land, beating the brother, who everyone thought was legitimate. The Bible supports undocumented immigration. The brother was the one who was documented with a thread. Perez clearly was the undocumented brother and arrived first and was allowed in, raised. The Bible's for undocumented immigration. And afterward his brother came out, who had the scarlet thread on his hand, and was named Zerah. Thus ends chapter 38 of Genesis. You have your action points. Christian men, I'm going to need you to stop masturbating. It is illegal. Everyone enjoy your prostitutes, your sex workers. Women are in charge of arranging men's sperm, apparently. Men, fathers and sons, I'm going to need you to work together for the father to pick you a wife. So Christian men who did not marry a wife that your father picked, I'm going to need you to divorce whoever that was and get right with the Lord. I'm homosexual, so I'm redeeming myself and others, so I'm okay. What a blessed Sunday.